Hello everyone, welcome back to Beauty in the Garden. I am T. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I am late this season, but I am going to be planting up even more out in the garden. Now I will be having to do a couple of different things to get my garden to stay the way I would love for it to stay. So in today's video, we are going to be planting. As you guys can see, I have coverage over most and majority of my garden, but we are still going to go ahead and plant. But I will tell you guys, please follow these rules as you go along in your garden. You're going to want to make sure that you do figure what's the difference throughout the seasons. As you learn to garden and as you learn your area, you start to know what you should and should not do. Now, when I lived in South Carolina temperatures are a little bit warmer. I did not have to cover my garden. And believe it or not, living up north, because it's normally pretty cool, even when we grew cabbages and collards up north, it was no big deal because it normally was still cool. We really didn't have too much to deal with when it comes down to weather change. But here where I am now in North Carolina, the weather changes is a little bit different. It can literally drop, you guys, from having a 70-degree day down to a 30-degree night. So just keep that in mind when gardening. But in today's video, we are still going to go ahead and get planting. So in today's video, I am going to go ahead and plant up this area right here. As you guys can see, the bok choy has held out pretty nicely with the covering. I will be covering them back. So what I will be doing throughout my whole entire garden, because my garden is extended, meaning I don't have my garden in literally just one spot or just one place that I can cover them. I have to go ahead and cover my garden sporadically throughout my yard. But over here, I am going to be planting up in this corner is my garlic. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to be adding in some perlite. I'm going to get the perlite into the garden beds so that we can have drainage. So here is perlite rocks, okay? It is rocks that are heated to a certain temperature and they pop like popcorn, or are heated and they just poof, like popcorn, and you end up with perlite. And we're going to be using this perlite for drainage over here because this soil over here is just a little bit heavier than I would like, and it all depends on where you get your soil from, or it could be the fact that you have a ton of compost or just literally, you guys, soil. So sometimes you can add sand or you can just add perlite. So with my garlic, I decided to go ahead and actually divide my garlic out. And as you guys can see here, I have all of my big cloves here. And then I have my smaller cloves here. Now, they have determined that if you plant bigger cloves, you are supposed to get a bigger garlic. Actually, more so like an allium, and it tastes more like an allium. It does not have that pungent, peppery taste as much as regular garlic. Now, this is a hardneck variety, and how most likely you can tell that it's a hardneck variety, it will be a strong, strong stem right down the middle of that garlic. All right, so I will be planting up the garlic today. Now, this is all elephant garlic. These are just the smaller cloves that were on the side of the bigger cloves, and that's what we're going to be planting. But before I actually start planting my garlic into this spot, let's go ahead and talk about some of the things I'm going to add. Over in this bed, I did have ginger. Ginger is a strong, strong rhizome feeder. Now, there's a difference between the tops and the bottoms. And normally with the bottoms, we want to make sure that potassium and that phosphorus is back into the soil, not so much the nitrogen. So the thing that I would love to do when it comes down to planting things that are growing under the ground is I really truly like to focus on that. And those things are phosphorus. I like to do when it comes down to starting my plants back into the same spot something was planted. I like to use a all-purpose fertilizer. This right here is Job's Organic. Now, I do use Job's Organic, and as well I do use Espoma. Now, they are poultry manures. Down to specific types of manures. Believe it or not, sometimes it all depends on where the source is coming from. You might have some people that sell rabbit manure or goat manure or cow manure. I really prefer to use the poultry manure. When it comes down to cow manure, you got to be careful because it can burn your plants a lot quicker. Because I feel like it takes a little bit longer for it to, do its thing, so it breaks down and it won't have that strong, pungent ammonia in your garden beds. There's products out there that they're supposed to be broken down correctly, okay? So just be mindful when you are purchasing cow manure that you make sure it is nice and neutral and not still hot, because if it's still hot, it will have a ammonia smell. Now, with this right here, with the poultry manure, it is pretty quickly dried out, and I just enjoy using this a lot better. Now, I'm quite sure rabbit and goat might be a little bit differently because they're pellets, and it should dry out a little bit quicker than the big masses of cow manure. But I'm going to go ahead and put this, you guys, over here in this section. So that was roughly about 6 hands full. Now, this is a 4x4 area that I had just added poultry manure, and now I'm about to add in there, you guys, is bone meal. Now that I have chickens, it gives me the opportunity to make my own bone meal. Bone meal is literally what it is. It is literally animal bone. For me, it has been a lot easier for me to get bone meal because I have my chicken eggs, and that is considered calcium, okay, and so considered in the same line of bone. So I definitely save all of my eggshells. I do bake them just a little bit, okay, just so they can crumble and turn into a powder a lot easier. Now, if you don't, you can literally just take them out, put them out in the sun, and let them cook that way, and you guys, you're going to get pretty much the same result. But if you just want to get it done quickly, I just go ahead and throw mine in the oven just for a little bit, and then I put it in a bullet, and I just go ahead and do it that way. Now, I do recommend that you go ahead to a used place or somewhere that you can get a very cheap food processor, so because it does leave an after smell in your bullet. So just keep that in mind, to just, if you don't want to do it that way, just to go ahead and just find a cheap food processor and process it that way. So what we're going to be doing is adding in here is some bone meal. Bone meal is going to help with that production of that bulb, and as well with the rooting system. Believe it or not, the bulb really needs all of the phosphorus. My container here is bone meal, and you get a good idea of what bone meal is. It's just grounded up animal bone. It could be even some eggshells in there for all we know. The one that I do is just pretty much all eggshells. And if you have chicken bones or things like that that you want to save that can grind up very easily. Bake them as well, and you can make your own bone meal. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to put in this bed is roughly 4 handfuls of bone meal. Went ahead and put in 4 stakes. Now the stakes I plan on building is a cold frame right around this area here. Now I'm probably going to do the same thing with the whole entire bed, and so that I can keep everything warm. So I have decided to make sure that I have now cold frames for every single bed. So what I've been doing is jotting down some notes to making sure that I go ahead and buy the things it's going to make my life just a little bit easier on my little miniature suburban homestead. And by doing that is now jotting down, formatting, and making sure that I have all my beds that's going to be covered. So when it comes down to the cold damaging my crops, I won't have to worry about that come any more seasons to come. So what I'm going to be doing in today's video when it comes down to that is, you see I have put in 4 stakes. So let's go ahead and plant our garlic. So I decided to separate them, like I said. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these small ones closer to me, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and put the bigger ones towards the back. Because since I have so many more of the smaller ones, and I just wanted to see what would be the difference in yield. And to see rather not if the cloves are even going to be either bigger or smaller. We're going to just go ahead and see why not. So since I have more of the smaller ones, I'm going to go ahead and start planting those up right now. So now that I went ahead and prepared my bed, let's go ahead and start planting up this garlic. So the first thing up is I'm still going to add just a tad bit of bone meal. Now with any of the poultry manure and bone meal, it is going to take some time to break down. So keep that in mind when you're using organic products. Organic products does take a little bit longer to break down unless you're using a water soluble. So let's go ahead and get started. So I have, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8. I have 9 big cloves, okay? And I have a ton of small ones. So let's see how many we have. 6, 20. So I have 20. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and like, arrange them to, make sure they fit the area. So let's see, 1. I'm going to go further. 1, 2, 3. I want 5 in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now garlic doesn't need that much space as garlic really don't. It does not need as much space. You can plant your garlic 3 to 4 inches apart, but since I have this big space, I'm going to space them out as I want to. And it's going to be just a little bit more space than I normally would plant them, but that's okay. I'm going to put bone meal in each hole. Into each hole. I'm going to give it a toss with my hands, just like this. And it's just simple. All right. I'm going to make sure that the bottom of our bulb looks like this, pointy side up, flat side down. And try to keep the paper on. Now the paper of the garlic is just giving it just a little bit more coverage so it doesn't rot as quickly. It does not determine whether or not you're not going to get a garlic clove. It does not really mean that it's going to rot, but to protect it just a little bit is to just leave it as it is. Okay, just leave it as it is. It just helps just a little bit. But if you take the paper off, it won't kill it, but if you water it too much, it will rot it. So just be mindful that the coating of this lovely paper does help. So some of these cloves are very teeny. It's okay. why not plant it up, right? So that's what we're going to do. Oh, I thought I had more than that. All right. So we have our garlic planted, and now we're going to go ahead and cover them. So the next thing that I will be doing is I'm going to add in a water soluble. I love using fish emulsion. There's other brands out there as well, like Doctor's Earth, that you can use. And I like to use my 2-gallon pitcher and stir that with 2 tablespoons of fish fertilizer. Normally I would have my tablespoon with me, but lately I've been eyeballing it. I just make sure that I get 2 big thick clunks into my 2-gallon pitcher. All right, that's it. And I need something to stir. So I'm gonna stir this up. So earlier on in the video, I did tell you guys about the bone meal and the poultry manure. It is going to take a while for it to break down, and that is why I use a water soluble until my plants start to show really good growth. So I will be feeding them first, you guys, still with this water soluble, because the bone meal and the poultry manure is not going to be available to my plants right now. So I'm going to go ahead and fertilize the soil. It doesn't really take that long for alliums to start to actually grow or even come out of the soil. Five to 7 days, and you're going to start seeing that happen. So that's why I kind of still water it in with a water soluble. So let's go ahead and do that. But when it comes down to, I would say, if you are starting your seedlings, and they don't have their true leaves yet, then I wouldn't waste your time doing that. Alliums are just a tad bit differently. So let's go ahead and water in our garlic. I went ahead and watered it in with a water soluble. I'm going to put on there even a little bit more protection for now because it is colder. And I normally will plant my garlic just a little bit sooner. So now I'm going to go ahead and put out some leaves. And that's going to help keep them just a little tad bit warmer and keep the soil from freezing until I go ahead and put a hoop house over top of it. Okay, you guys, we're at the end of this video. I hope this video helps you guys out with planting out your garlic. Now, I normally plant my garlic pretty early in the season. I am late with planting my garlic out, but as you guys can see, I did cover them with a little bit of leaves, not a thick amount of leaves, not yet until they start emerging from the soil. Now, I will be putting a hoop house over this to make sure that it does keep heat, so that they will be able to grow. Okay, so as you guys can see, it looks great and we're off to a good start. And I'll keep you guys updated in the upcoming weeks and show you guys how the garlic is doing. So I hope this really truly helps you guys out. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification so you can be notified when I do upload a video. And I just showed you guys how I go about trying to maintain my suburban homestead, growing out of my backyard, and so far so good. And let's keep you guys updated. All right, so this is the end. Go ahead and check out the next video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye, you guys. Happy gardening.